My name is Wilder Sornel, and I'm sitting in my father's farmhouse kitchen, listening to my wife's family tear me apart in the next room. They think I can't hear them through these thin walls, but every word cuts through like a blade through paper. Honestly, what does Jessa see in him? That's my mother-in-law, Margaret, her voice dripping with disdain. The man runs a heating and cooling business out of his garage. It's embarrassing. At least when the old man passes, there might be some money, my brother-in-law Derek chimes in. This place has to be worth something. I take a long sip of cold coffee and stare out the window at the acres of farmland that stretch beyond the house. Dad built this place with his own hands 40 years ago, every board and nail a testament to honest work. These people wouldn't understand honest work if it slapped them across their entitled faces. Jessa's voice joins the chorus. Wilder's been playing nursemaid for months now. You'd think he'd have found the will by now, or at least figured out what Dad left behind. Playing nursemaid? That's what she calls the last 8 months I've spent caring for my father as he battled lung cancer. While she worked late at her law firm, I was here every evening, helping Dad with medications, cooking meals he could barely keep down, and listening to his stories about the farm. Maybe there's nothing to find, Jessa's sister Bree adds. Maybe the old coot spent it all on medical bills. The old coot, my father, who worked construction for 30 years and saved every penny to buy this land, who taught me the value of hard work and keeping your word, who trusted me enough to make me executor of his estate 3 years ago, long before anyone suspected he was sick. I lean back in the wooden chair and smile to myself. If only they knew what I found in Dad's safe deposit box last week. Not just the will, but investment accounts, land deeds, and a portfolio worth more than their combined annual salaries. Dad was old school. He believed in cash and property, not flashy cars or expensive clothes. The conversation in the living room shifts, and I hear Derek's voice again. Wilder's always been a loser anyway. Remember when he tried to expand that business of his? Jessa had to bail him out with her credit cards. That expansion. 3 years ago, I had a chance to buy out my biggest competitor and double my customer base. I had the business plan, the projections, everything lined up. But the bank wanted collateral I didn't have, and Jessa offered to help, then spent the next 2 years throwing it in my face every time we argued. What she doesn't know is that I paid her back every penny 6 months ago, plus interest. The money came from a contract I landed with the county school district, a 3-year deal to maintain HVAC systems in 12 buildings. I never told her about it. Let her think I'm still the failure she married. He's probably going through Dad's things right now, looking for loose change, Jessa says, and they all laugh. Actually, I'm sitting here planning how to destroy your life, sweetheart. But they're not wrong about me going through Dad's things. I've been methodical about it, cataloging every document, every account, every asset. Dad kept meticulous records, and I've spent weeks organizing everything into a system that would make an accountant weep with joy. The front door opens, and I hear Tom Halverson's voice joining the group. Tom works at Jessa's law firm, some hotshot associate who drives a Tesla and wears suits that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He's been showing up to family gatherings for the past 6 months, always with some excuse about being in the neighborhood. Sorry I'm late, Tom says. Had to finish up some paperwork at the office. On a Sunday? Derek asks. You know how it is, Tom replies. Big cases don't wait for weekends. I know exactly how it is, Tom. I've seen your car parked outside the Lakeside Motel every Tuesday and Thursday for the past month. Same time, same room. And I've seen my wife's car there too. The voices get quieter, more conspiratorial. I strain to listen, but can only catch fragments. Something about accounts, something about making sure I don't get everything. They're planning something, these vultures. They think they're so clever, circling around what they assume will be a modest inheritance. I pull out my phone and open the banking app for the trust account I set up 3 months ago. The balance makes me smile. $847,000. Every asset Dad owned, every account, every investment transferred legally and properly into a trust with me as the sole beneficiary and executor. Dad signed the papers himself, fully aware and competent, with his lawyer as witness. Jessa's family is about to learn a very expensive lesson about assumptions. My phone buzzes with a text message. It's from Jessa. Can you pick up some groceries on your way home? We're out of everything. I type back, sure thing, love you too. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The hypocrisy tastes bitter in my mouth, but I've gotten good at swallowing it. For 8 months, I've played the devoted husband while she worked late, took mysterious phone calls, and grew more distant by the day. I've bitten my tongue through countless family gatherings where they treated me like hired help. But every insult, every snide comment, Every moment of humiliation has been fuel for what's coming. I've documented everything: conversations, text messages, financial records. I've built a case against them that would make a prosecutor jealous. The laughter from the living room gets louder. They're having such a good time at my expense. Margaret is telling some story about how I showed up to last year's Christmas party wearing a flannel shirt instead of a suit. The man has no class, she says. Poor Jessa deserves so much better. Poor Jessa, the woman who hasn't shared my bed in 3 months, who flinches when I touch her, who looks at her phone and smiles in ways she hasn't smiled at me in years. I stand up and walk to the kitchen window. The sun is setting over Dad's land, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. This land will be mine soon, along with everything else. But more than that, the respect these people have denied me for years. That's coming too. My phone buzzes again. This time it's a notification from the security app I installed on our home Wi-Fi network. Someone's accessing our network from an unfamiliar device. I check the details and see it's Tom's phone, connected to our guest network. Tom is in my house, using my internet, probably sitting on my couch while my wife's family plots against me. The audacity would be impressive if it weren't so pathetic. I open the monitoring software I installed last month. Perfectly legal, since it's my network and my house. Tom's device is active, and I can see he's messaging someone. The messages are encrypted, but I don't need to read them to know what's happening. The voices in the living room are getting louder again. I hear my name mentioned, followed by more laughter. They're so confident, so sure of themselves. They have no idea that I've been 3 steps ahead of them for months. I walk to Dad's desk and pull out the folder containing copies of all the trust documents. Every signature is notarized, every transfer is documented, every legal requirement met. Dad's lawyer, Jim Morrison, handled everything personally. Jim's been practicing law in this county for 30 years, and his reputation is spotless. Jessa thinks she's smart because she works at a law firm. She thinks she understands how estates work, how inheritance laws function. But she's spent her career on corporate contracts and business deals. She's never handled a family trust, never dealt with agricultural property, never navigated the specific laws that govern farmland inheritance in this state. I have. I spent 6 months researching every detail, consulting with 3 different attorneys, making sure every document was perfect. When this is over, there won't be any legal challenges, any loopholes, any way for them to contest what's rightfully mine. The front door opens again, and I hear footsteps in the hallway. Jessa appears in the kitchen doorway, her blonde hair perfectly styled despite spending the day at her mother's house. She's wearing the blue dress I bought her for our anniversary last year, back when I still thought our marriage could be saved. "Hey," she says, not quite meeting my eyes. "How's everything going here?" "Fine," I reply. "Just going through some of Dad's paperwork." She nods and glances at the folder on the desk. "Find anything important?" "Nothing you'd be interested in," I say. "Just old bills and receipts." It's not entirely a lie. The folder does contain bills and receipts, along with bank statements showing account balances that would make her head spin. "Well, don't stay too late," she says. "Tom brought some wine, and we're thinking about ordering pizza." Tom brought wine. To my house. To drink with my wife and her family while they discuss how to divvy up what they think will be my inheritance. "Sounds great," I say. "I'll be in soon." She turns to leave, then stops. "Wilder?" "Yeah?" "I know this has been hard on you. Losing your dad, dealing with all this legal stuff. I want you to know I appreciate everything you've done." For a moment, she almost sounds sincere. Almost sounds like the woman I married 7 years ago, the one who used to laugh at my jokes and steal my hoodies on cold mornings. "Thanks," I say. "That means a lot." She smiles and disappears back down the hallway. I listen to her footsteps fade, then return to the window. The sky is darker now, stars beginning to appear over the farmland. My phone buzzes one more time. Another notification from the home network. This time it's Jessa's phone, and she's accessing her cloud storage account. Uploading photos. I switch to the security camera app and check the feed from our living room. The camera is hidden behind a picture frame on the bookshelf, installed 3 months ago, and when I started suspecting something was wrong. The angle gives me a perfect view of the couch and coffee table. Tom and Jessa are sitting closer together than they should be. Not touching, but the body language is unmistakable. They're comfortable with each other in a way that goes beyond friendship or professional relationships. Margaret and Derek are in the kitchen, and I can hear them discussing dinner plans. Bree is scrolling through her phone, probably updating her social media with some carefully crafted post about family time. I watch Tom lean over and whisper something to Jessa. She laughs and playfully pushes his shoulder. It's a small gesture, innocent enough to anyone else. But I know my wife's laugh. Her real laugh versus her polite laugh. This is real. The rage builds slowly in my chest, a familiar heat that I've learned to control over the past few months. I take deep breaths and focus on the bigger picture. This moment, this betrayal, it's just more evidence for the case I'm building. I close the app and gather the paperwork from Dad's desk. Time to join the party. Time to sit in my own living room and smile while my wife flirts with her lover and her family plans to steal my inheritance. But first, I make a quick stop in Dad's bedroom. The safe is hidden behind a loose board in the closet, installed by Dad himself 20 years ago. Inside, along with the original trust documents, is something else, a small recording device. Dad was paranoid about people trying to take advantage of him in his later years. He recorded every conversation with lawyers, doctors, anyone who might later claim he was incompetent or coerced. The recordings prove his mental state was sharp right up until the end. I pocket the device and head toward the living room. Time to gather some evidence of my own. Tuesday evening, 6:47 p.m. I'm sitting in my truck across the street from the Lakeside Motel, watching Tom Halverson's Tesla pull into the parking lot. The motel is a relic from the 1970s, the kind of place that rents rooms by the hour and doesn't ask questions about why someone needs privacy. Tom parks in front of room 237, the same room he's been visiting for the past month. He checks his phone, looks around nervously, then walks to the door. He doesn't knock, just uses a key card to let himself in. 20 minutes later, Jessa's Honda Civic turns into the lot. I've been tracking her location through the family sharing app on our phones. She told me she was working late on a big case, said she'd probably be at the office until 9 or 10. The office is 12 miles north of here. The motel is 3 miles from our house. She parks 2 spots away from the Tesla, grabs a small overnight bag from her passenger seat, and walks quickly to room 237. The door opens before she can knock. Tom must have been watching for her. I sit in my truck for another 10 minutes, letting the reality sink in. Part of me hoped I was wrong, that there was some innocent explanation for all the suspicious behavior. But watching my wife of 7 years disappear into a motel room with another man erases any remaining doubt. The recording device in my pocket is already running. I've been carrying it everywhere for the past week, hoping to catch something useful. Tonight, I'm going to get more than audio. I pull out my phone and start taking photos. The Tesla's license plate, Jessa's car, the motel sign with its broken neon letters. Then I get out of the truck and walk across the street. The motel office is staffed by a bored-looking teenager who barely glances up from his phone when I enter. Perfect. "Excuse me," I say. "I think my wife might be staying here tonight. She said she was meeting a client, but I need to get her some medication she forgot." The kid looks up, suspicious. "We don't give out room information." I pull a $20 bill from my wallet and place it on the counter. It's kind of an emergency. She's diabetic, and she left her insulin at home. The 20 disappears into the kid's pocket. "What's her name?" "Jessa Sornel. She might have checked in with a male colleague." He types something into his computer. Room 237, checked in under the name Tom Halverson. I thank him and walk back outside. Now I have confirmation that they're registered together using Tom's name. More evidence for the file I'm building, but I'm not done yet. I walk around to the back of the motel, where the dumpsters are located. The building is old and the walls are thin. I can hear voices from several rooms, televisions, air conditioning units humming in the evening heat. Room 237 is on the ground floor, facing the parking lot. But there's a window on the backside, partially hidden by an overgrown hedge. I work my way through the bushes until I'm close enough to hear voices. "Can't keep doing this," Jessa is saying. "It's getting too risky." "Relax," Tom replies. "Your husband is clueless. He's too busy playing nurse to his father to notice anything. You don't know Wilder like I do. He's smarter than people think." "Smart enough to figure out that you've been transferring money from his business account?" My heart stops. "What money? What transfers?" "That was just a small amount," Jessa says. "And technically it's my money too. We're married." $5,000 isn't small, Jessa, and if he finds out, he won't. I've been handling our finances for years. He never looks at the statements. She's right about that. I've always been too busy with work to pay attention to the day-to-day financial details. I trusted her to manage our checking account, pay the bills, handle the household budget. Apparently that trust was misplaced. "Besides," Jessa continues, "once his father passes, there won't be any money problems. The old man has to have at least $100,000 in savings, plus this house and land." "What if he left it all to Wilder?" "Then I'll get half in the divorce." "The divorce?" "She's already planning to divorce me." "You're sure about that?" Tom asks. "I've been researching the laws. In this state, inherited property becomes marital property if it's commingled with joint assets. Once Wilder deposits any inheritance money into our joint account, I'm entitled to half. And if he doesn't deposit it, then I'll make sure he does. I know how to handle my husband, Tom. He'll do whatever I ask if I play it right. I lean closer to the window, trying to hear more, but my foot slips on the loose gravel. The sound is small, but in the quiet evening air, it might as well be a gunshot. The voices inside stop. "What was that?" Jessa asks. "Probably just a cat," Tom says. "This place is crawling with strays." I hold my breath and stay perfectly still. After a few seconds, their conversation resumes, but they're talking more quietly now. I can't make out the words anymore. I've heard enough anyway. I work my way back through the hedge and return to my truck. My hands are shaking as I start the engine, not from fear, but from pure rage. The woman I've loved for 7 years, the woman I've supported through law school and career changes and family drama, has been stealing from me and planning to take half of everything my father worked his entire life to build. But more than that, she's been lying to me for months. Every kiss, every "I love you," every moment of intimacy has been an act. She's been planning her exit strategy while I've been caring for my father. I drive home slowly, trying to process everything I've learned. The house is dark when I arrive. Jessa won't be home for hours. I go straight to my office and boot up my computer. First, I check our joint bank account. The balance is lower than I expected, and when I review the transaction history, I find them. 5 separate withdrawals over the past 2 months, each for exactly $1,000. All made at ATMs, all on days when Jessa said she was working late, $5,000, not enough to bankrupt us, but enough to prove she's been planning this for a while. Next, I log into my business account. This one requires 2 signatures for withdrawals over $500. Mine and Jessa's. We set it up that way years ago as a safety measure. I scroll through the recent transactions and find 2 checks I don't remember signing. One for $2,500 to JHS Consulting, and another for $1,800 to Legal Research Services. I've never heard of either company. I spend the next hour researching both names online. JHS Consulting doesn't exist, at least not as a registered business in our state. Legal Research Services is real, but when I call their 24-hour customer service line, they have no record of any services provided to my business. Fake companies. Jessa has been writing checks to fake companies and forging my signature. I take screenshots of everything, print copies of the bank statements, and file them in the folder that's becoming my insurance policy. Then I call my business attorney, David Chen, and leave a message asking him to review some irregularities in my accounts. It's almost midnight when Jessa comes home. I'm in bed, pretending to read a book about HVAC system maintenance. She enters quietly, trying not to wake me. "Hey," I say, looking up from my book. "How was work?" "Exhausting," she replies, not meeting my eyes. "We're dealing with this massive contract dispute. I'll probably be working late again tomorrow." "Tomorrow's Wednesday," I say. "I thought your late nights were usually Tuesdays and Thursdays." She freezes for just a moment, then recovers. "This case is different. The client needs round-the-clock attention." "Sounds demanding." "You have no idea." She disappears into the bathroom, and I hear the shower start. I use the opportunity to check her purse, which she's left on the dresser. Inside, along with her usual items, I find a second phone, a cheap prepaid device I've never seen before. The phone is password protected, but the lock screen shows several unread text messages from T. I can't see the full content, but the preview text of the most recent message is enough. "Can't wait to see you again tomorrow, same time, same place." I put the phone back exactly where I found it and return to my book. When Jessa comes out of the bathroom, I'm the picture of a devoted husband, reading quietly while waiting for her to join me in bed. "I'm pretty tired," she says, putting on pajamas. "I think I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Don't want to wake you when my alarm goes off early." "Of course," I say. "Get some rest." She kisses my forehead, a gesture that once meant everything to me and now feels like a mockery, and leaves the room. I wait until I hear the guest room door close, then get up and walk to the window. My reflection stares back at me from the dark glass. A man who's been played for a fool, but who's finally starting to understand the game. Tomorrow, I'm going to start playing by different rules. I return to my computer and spend the next 2 hours researching private investigators in our area. I need someone who can document Jessa's activities, someone who can provide the kind of evidence that will hold up in court. But more than that, I need someone who can help me figure out exactly how much money she's taken and where it's gone. If she's been planning this divorce for months, there might be other accounts, other schemes I haven't discovered yet. By the time I finally go to sleep, I have a plan. Not just for catching her in the act, but for making sure she pays for every lie, every betrayal, every dollar she's stolen. She wants to play games with my inheritance? Fine, but she's about to learn that I'm much better at games than she realizes. And unlike her, I don't plan to lose. The heavy bag gym sits in the industrial part of town, squeezed between a tire shop and an auto parts store. It's not much to look at from the outside, just a concrete block building with painted windows and a neon sign that flickers when the weather's bad. But inside, it's my sanctuary. I've been coming here 3 nights a week for the past 6 months, ever since Dad's diagnosis made it clear that our family was about to face some major changes. The gym is owned by Cal Morrison, an ex-Marine who fought professionally for a few years before settling down to train other people's anger. Tonight, I need Cal's advice about more than just my left hook. You're hitting like you're mad at the bag, Cal says, watching me work through combinations on the heavy bag. What's eating you, Wilder? I stop punching and lean against the bag, catching my breath. The gym is nearly empty, just me, Cal, and an older guy named Frank who comes in to work the speed bag. The perfect environment for a conversation I can't have anywhere else. My wife is cheating on me, I say. Cal nods like this isn't surprising news. You sure? Caught them at a motel yesterday. It had been going on for months. You confront her about it? Not yet. I'm gathering evidence first. Cal walks over and holds the bag steady. Evidence for what? You planning to divorce her? I'm planning to destroy her. The words hang in the air between us. Cal studies my face, looking for something, maybe signs that I'm about to do something stupid. What's that mean exactly? He asks. I tell him everything. The motel, the stolen money, the fake companies, the secret phone. I tell him about Jessa's family treating me like garbage for years, about Tom showing up at family gatherings, about the inheritance they're all planning to split. She thinks my dad left me a modest nest egg, I finish. She has no idea what's really in that trust. How much are we talking about? Cal asks. $847,000, plus the farmhouse and 60 acres of prime agricultural land. Cal whistles low. That's serious money. It gets better. Dad also owned mineral rights to a natural gas deposit under the back 40. The energy company has been trying to buy those rights for 5 years. Dad always refused, but I'm not Dad. What's that worth? Conservative estimate? Another 200,000, maybe more? Cal sits down on a nearby bench and gestures for me to join him. So, you're looking at over $1 million, and your wife thinks she's going to get half of it in a divorce. That's the plan. Her plan. But she doesn't know about the trust. Nobody knows about the trust except me, Dad's lawyer, and now you. Cal is quiet for a moment, thinking. What's your plan? I want to let her dig herself deeper first. Let her steal more money. Let her get more confident about the affair. Build a case that will make it impossible for her to claim any part of the inheritance. Then what? Then I want to humiliate her, publicly. I want everyone in this town to know exactly what kind of person she really is. And after that? After that, I want her gone. Completely gone. No money, no friends, no reputation, nothing. Cal leans back against the wall. That's a lot of anger you're carrying, brother. She's earned every bit of it. Maybe, but anger makes people stupid. You start thinking with your emotions instead of your head. You make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The kind that turn you from the victim into the bad guy, the kind that make judges sympathetic to cheating wives. I know he's right. I've been running hot since yesterday, fantasizing about confronting Jessa and Tom, about exposing them in front of everyone. But Cal's military background has taught him to think strategically, to plan operations instead of just reacting to situations. So what would you do? I ask. First, I'd secure the money. Make sure there's no legal way for her to touch it. Already done. The trust is airtight. Good. Second, I'd document everything. Every affair meeting, every stolen dollar, every lie she tells. Working on it. Third, I'd find out what she's really planning. Is this just about money, or is there more to it? What do you mean? Cal stands up and walks to a filing cabinet in the corner of the gym. He pulls out a folder and brings it back to the bench. I did some checking after you mentioned Tom Halverson's name, he says. My ex-wife works at the courthouse, and she owes me a favor. He opens the folder and hands me a document. It's a property deed application for a house across town, a nice house in the new development where all the lawyers and doctors live. The application is dated 3 weeks ago. The buyers are listed as Thomas Halverson and Jessica Sornel. She's already buying a house with him, I say, staring at the document. Gets worse. Look at the financing. I scan the paperwork until I find the loan information. The down payment is listed as $50,000, with proof of funds provided by inheritance documentation. She thinks she's already inherited the money, I say. Looks like it. And she's spending it before your dad is even in the ground. The rage builds in my chest again, but this time I control it. Cal is right. Anger makes people stupid. I need to think like a strategist, not like a betrayed husband. There's something else, Cal says. He hands me another document, a business license application for something called Sornel Halverson Legal Consulting. They're starting a business together? Filed last week. Your wife is listed as the primary partner, Tom as secondary. Looks like they're planning to leave the law firm and go into practice together. I study the application. The business address is the same as the house they're trying to buy. The projected first-year revenue is listed as $300,000, with startup capital of $100,000 from private investors. They're using my inheritance to start a business, I say. That's what it looks like. I lean back against the wall and close my eyes. This isn't just an affair, it's a complete life plan. Jessa isn't just cheating on me. She's building a future with Tom using money that belongs to me. How long do you think they've been planning this? I ask. Hard to say, but filing business paperwork takes time. I'd guess at least 3 months, maybe longer. 3 months. That takes us back to around the time Dad's condition started getting worse, when it became clear that he didn't have much time left. She's been planning this since Dad got sick, I say, probably waiting for the right moment to file for divorce. Let you go through the grief of losing your father, then hit you with papers when you're most vulnerable. The calculated cruelty of it takes my breath away. Jessa isn't just stealing from me, she's timing the theft to cause maximum emotional damage. What's your next move? Cal asks. I think about it for a moment. I need to know more about their timeline. When are they planning to buy this house? When are they planning to leave the law firm? When is she planning to divorce me? How do you find that out? The same way I found out about the affair. I watch, I listen, and I document everything. Cal nods approvingly. What about the money she's already stolen? I'm meeting with my business attorney tomorrow. We'll figure out how to handle the forged checks and the ATM withdrawals. You going to press charges? Not yet. I want to see how deep this goes first. And then? And then I'm going to make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what Jessa Sornel and Tom Halverson really are. Cal closes the folder and looks at me seriously. You sure about this path, Wilder? Once you start down this road, there's no going back. Your marriage is over either way, but this kind of revenge, it changes you. She changed me first, I say. I'm just returning the favor. We spend the next hour working the heavy bag, but my mind isn't on boxing. I'm thinking about timing, about strategy, about the difference between justice and revenge. By the time I leave the gym, I have a plan, not just for catching Jessa and Tom, but for making sure their betrayal costs them everything they think they're going to gain. She wants to play games with my father's legacy? Fine, but she's about to learn that some games have consequences she never saw coming. Sunday dinner at Margaret's house is a monthly tradition I've endured for 7 years. The routine never changes. Overcooked roast beef, passive-aggressive comments about my career choices, and endless gossip about people I don't care about. Tonight feels different, though. Tonight, I'm not just enduring, I'm hunting. Wilder, you look tired, Margaret says as she sets a platter of dry meat on the dining room table. Are you getting enough sleep? I'm fine, I reply, taking my usual seat at the far end of the table. Just been busy with work and taking care of Dad. How is your father doing? Derek asks, though his tone suggests he's asking out of politeness rather than genuine concern. About the same, good days and bad days. Jessa enters from the kitchen carrying a bowl of mashed potatoes. She's wearing the black dress I bought her for her birthday last year, the one that used to be my favorite. Now it just reminds me of all the lies she's told while wearing it. Tom should be here soon, she announces. He got held up at the office. On a Sunday? Margaret asks. Big case, Jessa explains. You know how it is? I know exactly how it is. Tom is probably at the motel, waiting for Jessa to make some excuse to leave early. I've been tracking their pattern for 2 weeks now, and Sunday evenings have become part of their routine. Bree arrives a few minutes later, followed by Tom. He's wearing khakis and a polo shirt, casual Sunday attire that probably cost more than most people's monthly car payment. Sorry I'm late, Tom says, shaking Derek's hand and kissing Margaret's cheek. Work never stops in the legal world. He nods at me politely. Wilder, good to see you. Likewise, I say, studying his face. He's confident, comfortable, acting like he belongs at my wife's family dinner. The audacity would be impressive if it weren't so infuriating. We sit down to eat, and the conversation follows its predictable path. Margaret complains about her neighbors, Derek talks about his latest business venture, Bree updates everyone on her dating life. I listen and nod at appropriate moments while watching Tom and Jessa. They're careful not to interact too much, but the signs are there if you know what to look for. The way Tom passes the salt without being asked. The way Jessa laughs a little too hard at his jokes. The way they both avoid making eye contact with me when the other is speaking. "So, Wilder," Derek says, cutting into his roast beef, "have you given any thought to what you're going to do with your father's place when the time comes?" The question catches me off guard, though it shouldn't. This is why they invited Tom tonight. They want to probe for information about the inheritance, and they think having a lawyer present will make their questions seem more casual. "I haven't really thought about it," I lie. "Dad's still with us." "Of course," Margaret says quickly. "We're not trying to be morbid. It's just that these things are easier to plan for in advance." "What kind of planning?" I ask. Tom clears his throat. "Well, estate planning can be complicated, especially with agricultural property. There are tax implications, zoning considerations, that sort of thing." "Are you offering to help?" I ask. "If you need guidance, sure. I've handled a few estate cases." Jessa shoots him a look. Quick, but I catch it. They've discussed this beforehand. "That's very generous," I say. "What would something like that cost?" "For family? No charge." Family. He considers himself family now. "I appreciate the offer," I say. "But Dad already has everything set up with his attorney." "Jim Morrison?" Tom asks. The fact that he knows Dad's lawyer's name confirms what I already suspected. They've been researching the estate, trying to figure out what they're dealing with. "That's right," I say. "Jim's a good lawyer," Tom says. "Very thorough. I'm sure whatever he set up will serve your family well." "Your family, not our family." Interesting choice of words. Bree leans forward. "Have you seen the will yet?" "Bree," Margaret scolds. "That's not appropriate." "I'm just curious," Bree says. "I mean, Wilder's been taking care of everything. He must have some idea what his father's wishes are." All eyes turn to me. This is the moment they've been building up to, the real reason for tonight's dinner. "Dad's always been private about his finances," I say. "I'm sure everything will work out fine." "But you are the executor, right?" Derek asks. "Jessa mentioned that you're handling all the legal stuff." I look at Jessa. "Did she?" Jessa's face reddens slightly. "I just mentioned that you've been dealing with the paperwork and the medical decisions. It's a lot of responsibility." "It is," I agree. "But Dad trusts me to handle things properly." "Of course he does," Margaret says. "You're a good son. Your father is lucky to have you." The compliment sounds genuine, which makes it even more insulting. She's buttering me up, hoping I'll share information they can use against me later. "The important thing," Tom says, "is making sure everything is handled legally. Estate law is complicated, and there are a lot of ways things can go wrong if the paperwork isn't perfect." "What kind of things?" I ask. "Oh, you know, tax issues, probate complications, challenges to the will. It's always better to have everything reviewed by multiple attorneys." "Are you suggesting Dad's lawyer isn't competent?" "Not at all. I'm just saying that a second opinion never hurts, especially when there are significant assets involved." Significant assets. They're fishing, trying to get me to confirm what they suspect about Dad's wealth. "I'll keep that in mind," I say. The conversation moves on to other topics, but I can feel the tension around the table. They didn't get what they came for, and they're not sure how to push harder without being obvious about it. After dinner, Tom offers to help with the dishes. Jessa joins him in the kitchen, leaving me alone with Margaret, Derek, and Bree in the living room. "Tom seems like a nice guy," I say, loud enough for the kitchen crew to hear. "He is," Margaret agrees. "Very successful, very smart, the kind of man who's going places." "How long has Jessa been working with him?" "About a year, I think," Derek says. "They make a good team." "I'm sure they do." From the kitchen, I hear Tom's voice. "This is a beautiful house, Mrs. Patterson. How long have you lived here?" 23 years, Margaret calls back. "We bought it right after Derek graduated college." "Great neighborhood," Tom says. "Very family-friendly." I excuse myself and walk toward the bathroom, but stop in the hallway where I can hear the kitchen conversation more clearly. "Have you and Wilder ever thought about moving to this area?" Tom asks Jessa. "Sometimes," Jessa replies. "But Wilder's business is on the other side of town. It would be a long commute for him." "What about after he inherits his father's place? He could sell that and use the money for something closer to your work." "Maybe. We haven't really discussed it." "You should. Real estate values are going up in this neighborhood. It's a good time to buy." I return to the living room, my mind racing. Tom isn't just asking casual questions. He's probing for information about our future plans, trying to figure out how much money will be available and when. A few minutes later, Jessa appears in the doorway. I hate to eat and run, but I need to get home. I have some case files to review tonight. On Sunday? Margaret asks. This case is really demanding, Jessa says. The client expects round-the-clock attention. Tom emerges from the kitchen. I should probably get going too. Early day tomorrow. They leave separately. Tom first, then Jessa 5 minutes later. I stay for another half hour, making small talk and helping clean up before excusing myself. Instead of going home, I drive to the Lakeside Motel. Both cars are there, parked in their usual spots outside room 237. I park across the street and call my private investigator, a guy named Rick Santos, who Cal recommended. Rick is expensive, but he's good at staying invisible. I need you at the Lakeside Motel, I tell him. Room 237. I need photos of who goes in and who comes out. Tonight? Right now. And Rick, I need audio if you can get it. That's trickier. Audio recording without consent is illegal in this state. What if I give consent? It's my wife in there. Still illegal if the other party doesn't know about it. Then just get photos. Clear, identifiable photos. I hang up and wait. 20 minutes later, Rick's van pulls into the motel parking lot. He parks near the office and disappears into the shadows between buildings. My phone buzzes with a text from Jessa. Working late again. Don't wait up. I text back, love you. See you in the morning. The lie tastes bitter, but it's necessary. I need her to think I'm still the clueless husband, still the man she can manipulate and deceive. An hour later, Rick calls. Got what you need. They're definitely together, definitely intimate. Want me to email the photos? Send them to the secure account we set up. Will do. Anything else? Keep monitoring their pattern. I want to know every time they meet, where they go, how long they stay. You got it. I drive home slowly, thinking about the evening's revelations. They're getting bolder, more confident. Tom is inserting himself deeper into family discussions, and Jessa is getting careless about her lies. The house is dark when I arrive. I go to my office and check the email Rick sent. The photos are clear, unmistakable evidence of the affair. Jessa and Tom entering the motel room together, Tom's hand on her back, Jessa looking around nervously before going inside. I add the photos to my growing file and update my timeline. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with my attorney to discuss the forged checks. Tuesday, I have an appointment with an accountant to review all of our financial records. By the end of the week, I'll know exactly how much money Jessa has stolen and exactly how she's planning to steal more. And then the real game begins. The annual Riverside Community Festival is the kind of small-town event that brings out everyone who matters. Local politicians, business owners, lawyers, doctors, all gathered in Riverside Park for an afternoon of barbecue, live music, and networking disguised as family fun. It's the perfect place for a public confrontation. I've been planning this moment for 3 weeks, ever since my attorney confirmed that Jessa has forged my signature on 6 different checks totaling $12,000. The evidence is overwhelming, but instead of going to the police, I've decided to handle this my own way. Jessa is working the crowd near the main stage, schmoozing with potential clients for the law firm. She's wearing a white sundress and her professional smile, playing the role of the successful attorney's wife. Tom is nearby, talking to the mayor about some municipal contract his firm is pursuing. They think they're untouchable. They think their secret is safe. They're about to learn otherwise. I wait until the band finishes their set and the crowd's attention starts to drift. Then I walk up to the microphone that's been set up for community announcements. Excuse me, I say, tapping the mic to make sure it's live. Sorry to interrupt, but I have a quick announcement. The crowd turns toward the stage. I can see Jessa in the audience, her face suddenly pale as she realizes what's happening. My name is Wilder Sornel, I continue. Some of you know me. I run Sornel HVAC here in town. I've been part of this community for over 20 years. A few people nod and smile. I'm known as a reliable businessman, someone who shows up on time and fixes problems without drama. I'm up here today because I need the community's help with a problem I've been having. You see, someone has been stealing money from my business account, forging checks, making unauthorized withdrawals, over $12,000 so far. The crowd murmurs. Financial crime is serious business in a small town where everyone knows everyone. Now, I could have gone straight to the police, I say, but I thought maybe the person responsible would want a chance to explain themselves first. You know, give them an opportunity to make things right before involving law enforcement. I scan the crowd until my eyes find Jessa. She's frozen in place, unable to move or speak. The thing is, I continue, this person isn't just stealing from me. They're stealing from their own family, someone I trusted completely, someone who had access to my accounts because I believed they would never betray that trust. Tom is moving through the crowd now, trying to reach Jessa, but there are too many people between them. So I'm asking publicly, Jessa, would you like to explain to everyone why you've been forging my signature and stealing from our business? The crowd turns to look at Jessa. She's standing near the barbecue tent, her face bright red, her mouth opening and closing without making any sound. She starts, then stops. It's okay, I say into the microphone. Take your time. I know this is embarrassing. Having your crimes exposed in front of the whole town must be pretty uncomfortable. Wilder, stop, she finally manages to say, but her voice is barely audible over the crowd noise. Stop what? Stop asking questions about my own money? Stop wondering why my wife has been lying to me for months? Tom finally reaches Jessa's side. He whispers something in her ear, probably telling her to stay quiet, to not make things worse. Oh, and Tom, I say, looking directly at him. Thanks for helping her spend the money. I have photos of you two at the Lakeside Motel, by the way. Very romantic. I'm sure your colleagues at the law firm will be interested to see how you conduct your client meetings. Tom's face goes white. A few people in the crowd gasp. The Lakeside Motel's reputation is well known in town. You're crazy, Jessa shouts, finding her voice at last. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I pull a folder from my jacket and wave it in the air. Bank records, photos, witness statements. I know about the house you're trying to buy together. I know about the business license you filed. I know about the inheritance money you're planning to steal. The crowd is completely focused now, sensing drama better than any soap opera. This is harassment, Tom says, stepping forward. You can't make accusations like this without proof. You want proof? I open the folder and pull out one of Rick's photographs, a clear shot of Tom and Jessa entering the motel room together. I hold it up for the crowd to see. How's that for proof, counselor? Someone in the crowd starts taking pictures with their phone. Within minutes, this whole scene will be on social media, spreading through the community like wildfire. Wilder, please, Jessa says, tears starting to form in her eyes. Can we talk about this privately? We're way past private conversations, sweetheart. You made this public when you decided to humiliate me in front of your family every Sunday, when you decided to steal from me while I was caring for my father, when you decided to plan a whole new life with your boyfriend using my money. The crowd is eating this up. Small-town drama doesn't get much better than a public confrontation between a cheating wife and her betrayed husband. You're making a mistake, Tom says. This isn't how you want to handle this. Really? How should I handle it? Should I quietly accept that my wife is a thief and a liar? Should I pretend I don't know about your little love nest? Should I just smile and let you steal my father's legacy? I step closer to the edge of the stage, making sure everyone can hear me clearly. See, here's what I've learned about betrayal, I say. It's not just about the lying or the stealing or the cheating. It's about the disrespect. It's about thinking you're smarter than the person you're betraying. It's about assuming they'll never fight back. Jessa is crying openly now, but I'm not done. You want to know what hurts the most? It's not the affair. It's not even the money. It's the fact that you thought I was too stupid to figure it out. You thought I was just some dumb blue-collar guy who wouldn't notice his wife stealing from him. That's not true, Jessa sobs. Isn't it? Then why didn't you just ask for a divorce? Why all the sneaking around, all the elaborate plans? Why not just be honest about what you wanted? She doesn't answer because we both know the truth. She didn't want a clean divorce. She wanted the money too. I'll tell you why, I continue. Because you're greedy. Because you thought you could have it all. The new boyfriend, the new business, and half of my inheritance. You thought you could play me for a fool and get away with it. Tom tries to lead Jessa away from the crowd, but she resists. You don't understand, she says. It's not like that. Then explain it to me. Explain how forging my signature isn't theft. Explain how lying about working late isn't deception. Explain how planning to divorce me while stealing my money isn't betrayal. The crowd waits for her answer, but none comes. That's what I thought, I say. You can't explain it because there is no explanation. You're just a common thief who got caught. I fold up the papers and put them back in my jacket. Anyway, I just wanted everyone to know what kind of people they're dealing with. Jessa Sornel and Tom Halverson. Liars, thieves, and adulterers. Feel free to keep that in mind if you ever need legal services. I step away from the microphone and walk off the stage. The crowd parts to let me through, and I can hear them starting to buzz with conversation before I'm even out of earshot. My phone starts buzzing immediately. Text messages, missed calls, social media notifications. The story is already spreading. I drive to Cal's gym and spend 2 hours working the heavy bag. letting the adrenaline work its way out of my system. When I finally check my phone, I have 47 missed calls and over 100 text messages. Most of them are from people I barely know, asking for details or offering support. A few are from Jessa's family members, expressing shock and demanding explanations. But the most interesting message is from Jim Morrison, Dad's attorney. "We need to talk. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., my office." I text back, "I'll be there." When I get home that evening, the house is empty. Jessa's clothes are gone from the closet, her toiletries are missing from the bathroom, and her car isn't in the garage. On the kitchen counter, I find a note. "You've destroyed everything. I hope you're happy. Don't try to contact me." I crumple up the note and throw it in the trash. Then I open a beer and sit on my back porch, looking out at the sunset. Tomorrow, I'll deal with whatever legal complications my public confrontation has created. Tonight, I'm going to enjoy the silence of a house that's finally free of lies. The game isn't over yet, but for the first time in months, I feel like I'm winning. Jim Morrison's law office occupies the second floor of a brick building on Main Street that's been there since the 1920s. The elevator is older than I am, and it groans and shudders as it carries me up to face whatever consequences yesterday's public spectacle has created. Jim is waiting for me in his conference room, along with someone I don't recognize, a woman in an expensive suit who looks like she could buy and sell this entire building without checking her bank balance. "Wilder," Jim says, standing to shake my hand. "Thanks for coming. This is Patricia Henley from the State Attorney General's office." My stomach drops. The Attorney General's office doesn't get involved in small-town domestic disputes unless something serious is happening. "Mr. Sornel," Patricia says, gesturing for me to sit down, "we need to discuss yesterday's events." "What about them?" "Making public accusations of criminal activity is a serious matter," she says, "especially when those accusations involve specific claims about financial fraud." "I have documentation for everything I said." "We're sure you do, but there are proper channels for reporting financial crimes, and a community festival microphone isn't one of them." Jim opens a folder and slides it across the table. "There's also the matter of how you obtained some of your evidence." I look at the documents. They're copies of the surveillance photos Rick took at the motel, along with a report detailing how they were obtained. "Your wife filed a complaint yesterday evening," Patricia explains. "She's claiming harassment, stalking, and violation of privacy. Her attorney is also suggesting that some of your evidence may have been obtained illegally." "I hired a licensed private investigator to document my wife's activities. That's completely legal." "It is," Jim agrees, "but photographing people in private settings without their knowledge can be problematic depending on the circumstances. The motel parking lot is a public space." "True. But if your investigator was on private property, or if he used telephoto lenses to photograph activities inside the motel room, that could constitute invasion of privacy." I study their faces, trying to read the situation. "Am I being charged with something?" "Not at this time," Patricia says, "but we wanted to discuss your options before this situation escalates further." "What options?" Jim leans forward. "Your wife and Tom Halverson have hired separate attorneys. They're threatening to file civil suits for defamation, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Let them try. Everything I said was true." "Truth is a defense against defamation," Patricia agrees, "but it's not a defense against harassment or privacy violations, and civil suits can be expensive to defend, even when you win." "So, what are you suggesting?" "We're suggesting that you consider resolving this matter quietly," Jim says. "Your wife is willing to discuss a settlement that would avoid criminal charges related to the forged checks." "In exchange for what?" "You drop all surveillance activities, you make no further public statements about the affair, and you agree to an uncontested divorce with a standard asset division." I laugh, but there's no humor in it. "Standard asset division? She wants half of everything after stealing from me for months?" "The alternative could be very expensive litigation," Patricia warns. "And if a judge decides that your public humiliation tactics were excessive, you could end up paying damages." "How much are we talking about?" "Potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars," Jim says, "plus attorney fees." I sit back in my chair, thinking. This is exactly what Jessa was counting on, that I'd be too afraid of legal consequences to fight back effectively. "There's something you should know," I say. "My wife doesn't just want half of my current assets. She's planning to claim half of my father's inheritance." "That could be complicated," Jim admits. "Inherited assets are usually considered separate property, but if they're commingled with marital assets..." "They won't be commingled. Dad set up a trust specifically to prevent that." Patricia looks interested. "What kind of trust?" "An irrevocable trust with me as the sole beneficiary. My wife has no legal claim to any of it." How much money are we talking about? Jim asks. Over $1 million, plus 60 acres of farmland. Both attorneys sit up straighter. This changes the entire dynamic of the situation. If that's true, Patricia says, then your wife's attorney may not be fully informed about the financial realities here. What do you mean? I mean that threatening expensive litigation against someone who's about to inherit $1 million is a very different calculation than threatening someone who might lose his house. Jim nods slowly. It also means that your wife's theft of $12,000 takes on a different character. She wasn't just stealing from a small business. She was stealing from someone with significant assets. Are you saying I should fight this? I'm saying you have options, Patricia replies. You can accept their settlement offer, or you can make a counteroffer of your own. What kind of counteroffer? Jim pulls out a legal pad and starts writing. You agree to an uncontested divorce with no asset division. She keeps what's hers, you keep what's yours. In exchange, you don't press criminal charges for the forged checks. That's it? She gets nothing? She gets to avoid going to prison, Patricia says. That's not nothing. What about Tom? What about him? He was involved in spending the stolen money. Doesn't that make him an accessory? Jim and Patricia exchange glances. Proving that Tom knew the money was stolen would be difficult, Jim says, but it's possible. What would that look like? Criminal charges for conspiracy to commit fraud. If convicted, he could face fines and potential disbarment. And if he's not convicted? Then he's still a lawyer who was publicly exposed as having an affair with a married client. That's not great for his career prospects. I think about Tom's smug confidence at family dinners, his casual assumption that he could waltz into my life and take whatever he wanted. I want to make a different counteroffer, I say. What did you have in mind? Jessa signs a confession admitting to forging the checks. Tom signs a statement admitting to knowingly spending stolen money. They both agree to public apologies for their behavior. In exchange, I don't press criminal charges. They'll never agree to that, Patricia says. Then we go to trial. I'll take my chances with a jury. Jim looks skeptical. You're talking about a very public, very expensive legal battle. Are you sure that's what you want? I'm sure. Jessa spent months planning to humiliate and rob me. Now it's her turn to face consequences. What if she calls your bluff? What if she's willing to risk criminal charges rather than sign a confession? Then she goes to prison, and I still get to keep my inheritance. Patricia makes some notes on her legal pad. We'll need to present this offer through proper channels. It could take several days to get a response. That's fine. I'm not going anywhere. There's one more thing, Jim says. Your father's condition has been declining. We should probably discuss the timeline for executing the trust. My chest tightens. Dad has been getting weaker over the past few weeks, sleeping more, eating less. The doctors say it could be days or weeks, but not months. What do I need to do? Nothing, really. The trust is already fully funded and legally executed. When the time comes, the assets transfer automatically. And there's no way for Jessa to challenge it? Not successfully. Your father was mentally competent when he signed the documents, and we have medical records to prove it. The trust is ironclad. I stand up and shake hands with both attorneys. Let me know when you hear back from Jessa's lawyer. We will. And Wilder? For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Your father worked hard for what he built. He wanted it to go to someone who would respect that. I take the elevator down to street level and walk outside into the afternoon sunshine. Main Street is busy with the usual weekday traffic. People going about their normal lives, unaware of the legal drama playing out in the offices above their heads. My phone rings. It's Cal. How did the meeting go? He asks. Better than expected. They're offering Jessa a way out, but it comes with conditions she won't like. What kind of conditions? Full confession, public apology, no money. Cal whistles. Think she'll take it? I think she'll try to negotiate. She still believes she can manipulate the situation to her advantage. And if she can't, then she finds out what happens when you steal from the wrong person. I drive home through the quiet streets of my neighborhood, past houses where normal couples are probably having normal problems. Arguments about money or kids or whose turn it is to take out the trash. Simple problems, honest problems. I park in my driveway and sit in the truck for a moment, looking at the house Jessa and I bought together 5 years ago. It feels different now, emptier, like a stage set after the play has ended. Tomorrow, I'll probably hear from her attorney with some counteroffer designed to salvage what she can from this wreckage. She'll try to find an angle, a way to turn this situation to her advantage. But for the first time in months, I'm not worried about what she might do next. I have the evidence, I have the money, and I have the truth on my side. Most importantly, I have something she never counted on: the willingness to burn everything down rather than let her win. The game is almost over, and I'm holding all the cards. 3 weeks later, I'm standing in the cemetery where my father is buried, reading the headstone that bears his name and the dates that bookmarked his 73 years on Earth. The funeral was small, just me, Jim Morrison, and a few of Dad's old construction buddies who remembered when he was young and strong and full of dreams about buying his own land. Jessa didn't come, neither did her family. They were too busy dealing with the fallout from their failed legal strategy. 2 days after our meeting at Jim's office, Jessa's attorney came back with a counteroffer. She would admit to borrowing money from our joint accounts without permission, but she wanted $100,000 in exchange for signing an uncontested divorce agreement. I responded with a counteroffer of my own. She could have exactly what she brought into the marriage: her car, her clothes, and her law school debt. When she refused, I did exactly what I'd promised. I filed criminal charges for forgery and fraud. I provided the district attorney with bank records, surveillance photos, and witness statements that painted a clear picture of months of deliberate theft. Tom hired his own attorney and tried to distance himself from Jessa's financial crimes, but the evidence of his involvement was too strong to ignore. Text messages on Jessa's hidden phone showed him discussing how to spend Wilder's inheritance money and making plans for their future business venture. The local newspaper picked up the story, and within days it had spread to regional media outlets. Small-town lawyer accused of stealing husband's inheritance made for compelling headlines, especially when the photos from the community festival started circulating online. Jessa was fired from her law firm the day after her arrest. Tom was placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of his criminal case. The house they were planning to buy together? The sale fell through when the bank discovered that their down payment came from fraudulent sources. The business license they'd filed? Revoked when the state discovered that one of the partners was under criminal indictment. Their perfect plan, their carefully constructed future, all of it collapsed in the span of a week. But the real reckoning came at the trial. Jessa's defense attorney tried to paint me as a controlling husband who had driven his wife to desperate measures through emotional abuse. He argued that the money she took was rightfully hers as a spouse, and that her affair was the result of a loveless marriage. The jury didn't buy it. They saw the surveillance photos, the forged signatures, the elaborate deception. They heard testimony about the trust fund Jessa was trying to steal, the business she was planning to start with stolen money, the house she was trying to buy with funds that belonged to me. Most damaging of all, they heard recordings from Jessa's hidden phone, conversations with Tom where she laughed about how clueless I was, how easy it would be to take him for everything, how she couldn't wait to be rid of that loser. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Jessa was convicted on 6 counts of forgery and 3 counts of fraud. The judge sentenced her to 18 months in prison, followed by 3 years of probation and full restitution. Tom was convicted as an accessory and received 1 year of probation, a $50,000 fine, and suspension of his law license for 2 years. But the legal consequences were just the beginning. In a town this size, reputation is everything. Jessa's family, who had spent years treating me like an embarrassment, suddenly found themselves on the receiving end of whispered conversations and knowing looks. Margaret had to resign from her position on the school board. Derek's business lost several major contracts when word spread about his sister's criminal conviction. Bree moved to another state rather than face the constant reminders of her family's disgrace. As for me, I used part of Dad's inheritance to expand my HVAC business, hiring 3 new employees and purchasing equipment that allows us to handle commercial contracts across the entire county. The rest of the money is invested conservatively, generating enough income that I could retire tomorrow if I wanted to. But I don't want to retire. I like working with my hands, solving problems, building something useful. Dad taught me that honest work has its own reward, and he was right. I kept the farmhouse and 60 acres, turning part of the land into a workshop where I restore classic cars in my spare time. It's peaceful out there, with nothing but the sound of wind through the trees and the occasional passing of a neighbor's tractor. Sometimes when I'm working late in the shop, I think about the path that led me here. The months of humiliation and betrayal, the careful planning, the moment when I decided to fight back instead of just accepting what was happening to me. I think about Jessa, serving her sentence and probably planning her next move, her next angle, her next attempt to get something for nothing. I think about Tom, working as a paralegal now, his dreams of legal stardom permanently derailed by his decision to steal from the wrong person. Mostly, though, I think about Dad, about the values he taught me, the example he set, the legacy he left behind. He always said that a man's character is revealed not by his successes, but by how he responds to betrayal. I hope he would be proud of how I responded to mine. The sun is setting over the farmland as I walk back to my truck. Tomorrow I'll return to work, to the simple satisfaction of fixing things that are broken and building things that will last. Tonight I'll go home to a house that's finally peaceful, finally honest, finally mine. The game is over, and I won. But more than that, I survived it with my integrity intact. In the end, that matters more than money, more than revenge, more than any victory over people who never deserved my trust in the first place. I drive home through the quiet countryside, past fields that stretch to the horizon and houses where families are sitting down to dinner together. Normal families, honest families. The kind of family I thought I had before I learned the difference between love and lies. The kind of family I might have again someday with someone who understands that trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. But that's a story for another day. Tonight, I'm content to be alone with the truth, in a house where no one is stealing from me, lying to me, or planning to betray me. It's more peace than I've had in years. It's enough.